Aloha Aina, and welcome to Voices of Truth, one-on-one with Hawaii's future, brought to you by the Kiwani Foundation. I'm Ehuke Kahu Cardwell, and here we are today on the beautiful grounds of the Bishop Museum in Honolulu, Hawaii, and we have as our guest Hinaleimoana Wong. Aloha, welcome to the show. Or I should say welcome back. It's great to have you on again.
Ai, mahalo nui.
Good.
Mahalo. Aloha mea ka kopakahia pau e nā hoa makamaka e nana mai nei ia o kopakahi mai ke one o ka mokupuni nui o Keawe a hiki loa I ko ka helelani ai nā aloha. Mahala nui ke hui ana pe no me oko ka poe Hawaii a me ka poe e ae e noho nei ka ai no Amerika a pāku makamoana nui a kana loa. Mahalo.
Good. And for our viewers outside of Hawaii, tell us what you just said.
Well, for our viewers outside of Hawaii, a greeting to you from the rising to the setting of the sun. Greeting to all of you, to our native people, as well as everyone else who is tuning into the program. It's a privilege and an opportunity to share this short time with one another. Mahalo.
Great, mahalo Hina. I know since we visited last with you, you've been doing some exciting things. So let's start with you're a teacher, right? You're teaching a charter school here in Honolulu. That's
Yes.
one of the two schools you teach at. Tell us a little bit about your school, the name of the school, what grade you teach, how many kids you have there, like that.
Well, here in Honolulu on the island of Oahu, I currently am privileged to work with 150 students.
Wow.
Who are part of our charter school program, Halaulokahi, that is based out of New Helewai. For those of you who don't know where New Helewai is, it is the area currently known as Waiakamilo. And I am working with students from pre-K through the 12th grade.
Really?
Here on this island.
Wow.
And on the island of Kauai, I am fortunate to work with about 48 students, many of whom are either from or are descendants of the Ni'ihau families who now currently live on the island of Kauai.
Mm. So actually you're a teacher in two different schools.
Yes.
On two different islands, a school here on Oahu and then a school on Kauai.
Yes.
And some of those students are actually from Ni'ihau, which is the privately owned island just a little ways off of Kauai.
Yes.
Wow.
That is true. And
You got your hands full.
yes, I do. So I fly out to Kauai once a week every Thursday.
Wow. And you stay there for how long?
The minimum amount of time that I would stay is simply for the amount of time it takes for me to teach my class. I'm given about 3 hours to teach and to share, and then I can fly home. If not, if I'm able to stay for a while, then I could stay a day or two or stay the weekend.
Okay, good. So these are charter schools, and that means what? They're chartered by the... Explain that to our viewers. How do they differ from...
Here in Hawaii,
Yeah.
the public charter school system, we are chartered through the state. Unlike some other places, perhaps on the continental U.S., where it might be a different situation. However, here in Hawaii, the state is the authorizer for the charter, for us to operate an educational program. And at our charter school, while we do have our Western academia as our focus and a highlight, anything from science to math to English to social studies, those are all primary components of our education. However, the foundation of our education is always centered and focused on Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian values, Hawaiian concepts, Hawaiian history, and simply being a part of the Hawaiian community. Now, whether or not the student themselves, whether or not they are actually Hawaiian, is not important.
So you have students in your school that are Hawaiian, ethnically Hawaiian, Kanaka Maoli, native Hawaiian. Then you also have Caucasian, Japanese, Chinese, like that, right?
Yes.
Wow.
I would say at least 95% of our students are of Hawaiian descent. But then we do have those others who are not Hawaiian, who choose to be a part of our school. And it's with this understanding that we're able to function in the way that we do. We as the host culture have a duty, a responsibility, and an obligation to not only our native Hawaiians, but to all those who come from afar, to allow the host culture to determine what the color of our education is like, to allow it to define the character of our students and our school, our staff as well, and for it to pretty much direct the course of our studies and how things are carried out.
So, what I hear you saying is if you live in Hawaii, a very fundamental, important component of your education should be the Hawaiian culture, what Hawaii is about, the history of Hawaii, and those are the things, that's the framework, if you will, that holds the other things like the Western stuff, the science, the math, all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Wow.
And in fact, we can take any area of quote-unquote Hawaiian study and apply any of the sciences, apply mathematics, apply the historical emphasis. We can apply any area of Western academia to anything native that it is, we're studying.
Sure.
So really, it's more about how to make learning and education not only more fun, but more meaningful and significant, as well as relevant to us as Native people, first off. Secondly, us as local island people living together. And that's not just living together, but harmoniously is the goal. And also to ensure that our students will have not only education from their own perspective, but to allow themselves to grow up in an environment which fosters them to grow up being Hawaiian.
So they have the Hawaiian mindset.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really something. That, as I'm sitting here listening to you say that, it really strikes me as if I were to come up with a term, I would call that really out of the box, because
Yes.
it's broken, it's burst through the box of the Western colonized mindset that the U.S. brought when they came here and illegally overthrew the sovereign nation of Hawaii. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you started this charter school up, was there any resistance to this?
Well, I am actually one of the staff, one of the teachers who had joined in on the effort from the very beginning. However, our founder, Laura Albrecht, as well as another founder who also works for the school, Kalani Kalima, all those of us who came together in the very beginning had encountered a number of different challenges, as we still do encounter to a certain degree today. One of the biggest issues is funding, and the appropriate level of funding, the relative ease or not of our access to that funding, as well as the mindset of those in the Board of Education and the Department of Education here, in terms of consistency with how we see things being done and being carried out. And a lot of times it is at least viewed as something quite skeptical on the behalf of outsiders as to how we run our educational program.
Yeah. How could they possibly educate kids if they don't do it this classical way that we know when we were brought up?
Right.
So it sounds like some of your experiences are you may not always get all you're promised, yeah?
Yes. However, at our school, and particularly speaking for Halaulukahi here in New Helebai, it is first and foremost that when we promise an education that looks different, feels different, and is different, it oftentimes tends to be so different that even our staff, who came through a more traditional, quote-unquote, Western style of learning, it can also provide challenges for us as well. And how do we reconcile that? That's, I believe, one of the largest challenges that we've encountered in-house, is how do we provide what we know is culturally essential for them to have in their growing up, and yet how do we also not only meet standards of excellence, but surpass that
Yeah.
with regards to Western academia.
Yeah, good. I want to get to standards of excellence in a moment, but for our viewers, can you give us an example of one of those challenges for in-house and how you overcame it?
Well, we have our staff who come to us with varying knowledge bases and expertise, and we're all allotted so much time to work with the students. So any and all of us at any given time are going to be doing whatever it is that we've planned out for them to do. On days like this, however, today we took our students down to the special legislative session concerning the super ferry. And if any of our listeners have been following the events surrounding the super ferry, this has become one of the largest controversial items that has come to hit our community in quite a while.
Yeah.
And the community divided amongst islands, divided within one island. And today was the special hearing that
The legislature
right,
put
that
on.
the legislature put on.
Yeah.
So we decided that we were going to take our students. Now, I supported a coworker of mine in his intent to take them down there. However, this poses a challenge for other teachers who may have been covering things in other areas of expertise, yet not necessarily immediately connecting with the plan of the day. So it's always a struggle for time, because we're getting out of the box. When we say class is going to be held down at the state capitol, out of the box means, okay, how do we figure out how to now make up for the time that was lost in other classes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. So let's stick with the super ferry issue for a second, because I see something very interesting there. First, by the way, whether you live in Hawaii or not, I know you've heard of the super ferry. The Los Angeles Times a couple of weeks ago had a front page article on it. It's an issue that's both dividing Hawaii and bringing everybody together. It's a very unique issue, political issue. You take your students down there because if they're grounded in Hawaiian culture and a foreign concept comes in that goes against that culture, you want them to see that and interact with that, yeah?
Yes. We want them to see it, to understand it, to interact with it, and to explore the possibilities. For as much as we can muster, we try to promote and perpetuate our cultural practices, our protocols, and our perspectives with a high level of integrity. Of course, that's notwithstanding all of the existing changes that have come our way.
Oh, sure.
When we cover any issue, be it about the super ferry, about political freedom, independence, we have to ensure that our students have the opportunity to learn about the varying viewpoints, the perspectives, and what it really means to either oppose or support anything.
So you don't go down, you don't tell them ahead of time what to say or what position
No.
to take, do you?
No.
Yeah.
That's important for all of our listeners to hear, because when we are viewed by the public eye as being out there on any of the issues that have come our way, sometimes it's construed that we told the students how to believe and what to think. Just know this, that our education is based and founded upon cultural values, concepts, principles. We are founded upon our history and either the perpetuation of what's right according to history or the correcting of the wrongs that are a part of our history. So for example, when the United States came over and overthrew our nation, that was one of the most serious, grave, and hurtful times for our people. What do our students do about it in 2007 here in the 21st century? Our students are challenged to find ways to rectify that and to stand in support of ways that will bring justice for that. So anything and everything we do, for example, in today's field trip and study to the state capitol, concerning the super ferry. We didn't tell them what to say. We did prepare them, though, that if they wanted to offer testimony, that it had to be of high quality, and that they would have to know why they did or did not support the super ferry.
So they could actually speak in support of the super ferry if they felt that was Pono, if they
Yes.
felt that was the legitimate right thing to say.
Yes.
Well, that's really something. That's really something. You know, it sounds to me like, you know, when the U.S. came into Hawaii, overthrew the legitimate government, and then imposed the so-called Western culture, the Haole culture, Western European culture, let's call it. There's a term for that called colonialization.
Yes.
And it sounds to me like what you guys are doing in your school is decolonializing the mentality of your students, yeah?
Yes. Decolonizing the mind of our students is one of our first and primary goals. It actually sets the precedent for what we do.
So that's the foundation for what you do.
That is the foundation for what we do. Decolonizing the mind.
The mind, yeah.
If the parents and the students who chose to come to Halaulokahi, of which we are a school of choice, if they chose to come to Halaulokahi, then they should expect that that is one of their experiences. And that is the process of decolonizing the mind. Therefore, it means that if we're going to stand firmly in our belief that we shall live by our culture and by the precedent that it sets, if we are going to promote and perpetuate that which is pono, that which is appropriate and just, as is told by our Hawaiian history, then we should conduct ourselves in that way, and we should also manage our affairs in that way. So everything from how we govern our school, to how we give out assignments, to how we deal out punishment for people who are not in compliance with expectation and standards of conduct. That all is highly contingent upon our ability to maintain, quote-unquote, what is Hawaii. Or at least from what we can provide to them, just one facet of what is Hawaiian in the Hawaiian community.
Interesting. Hina, I'm curious as to how the Hawaiian students, Kanaka Maoli students, and then the other students, non-Hawaiian students, how they've embraced and responded to this. Has there been any difference or what?
No. There hasn't been any divisions along the lines of ethnicity, be it Caucasian, Asian, Hawaiian or otherwise, and as well as other Polynesians. We are a school based and founded upon Hawaiian concept, principle, and our history, our values. So that sets the tone for everything that we do. It also pretty much dictates how we're going to approach the thinking it through. The thought process is colored by our Hawaiian culture.
You guys really had to do your homework well before you even had the first student walk in the door, yeah?
Yes. And it's been almost a painstaking process. It continues to be so today.
Yes.
For example, tomorrow we will be going to the Native Indian Education Association conference that is currently welcoming, I would say, roughly 4,000 Native Americans coming from the American continent.
Coming to Hawaii to meet her.
Hawaii.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that they're all here by today. And we're going to take our students there. And our Nalei Na'awau Association of Hawaiian Charter Schools will be bringing the protocol to the forefront tomorrow. And part of the protocol events will be the presenting of the colors. And obviously, presenting of the colors usually comes with the singing of a national anthem. I am very challenged right now as to what I'm going to do as the cultural director of our Halaulokahi Charter School in how we're going to handle tomorrow. I still do not know what I'm going to do tomorrow, because when they present the colors and when they sing, I am not going to stand up and support that.
You mean when they sing the U.S. national
When
anthem?
they sing the U.S. national anthem.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you are on our territory.
yeah. And this is not the U.S.
And this is not the U.S. We remain subject and subjugated to U.S. law
And occupation.
because it is imposed upon us. And those in our community who cannot see beyond that veil have been taught to see only that as the only path. We intend for our students to see that there was certainly more intended for them other than growing up under U.S. federal jurisdiction.
I just came up with something else when you were saying that. Not only is what you do out of the box, but you actually de-brainwash or unbrainwash people who have been told a story that is false. It's not true. But it's been told for so many generations that people just assume it's true. It's in some of the history books that are printed in America, but it's still not true. So part of what you do is a process of unbrainwashing people, yeah?
Yes. Perhaps this is a different example. If we can think about it as painting a picture.
Uh-huh.
When we paint a picture with Western media, oftentimes the paints and the colors that we use can be very toxic to the body.
Yes.
The colors and the paints that we're using are all derived out of native materials here in the islands. So what does that mean? That means that what we do has to be organic. They have to see from the things around them. They have to experience this, and they have to literally, truly understand and identify with why and what they do and for what purpose. So unless it's going to have some importance and some meaning and significance to them, they won't catch on to it. But tomorrow, getting back to tomorrow, that's going to be a challenge because not only myself, but our students have already learned about their history. If they learn about their history, and if we teach our students what is right from wrong, then this grave wrong that has been done to our community, that has not yet been made right, how can we stand in respect, for that which symbolizes
the wrong?
The wrong.
Yeah. Let's come back to standards of excellence for a second. I want to talk about that. I know all schools you have to give tests. Students have to be tested, and I know that the people who fund schools, the states, expect schools to live up to certain standards of excellence, yes? How have your schools done on that, and your students done on that?
Now, that question in itself is indeed a loaded question because...
Yes. That's why I asked it.
Yes. When you think of educational standards of excellence, it is our endeavor to not only have them be adept, to be proficient, and to be of resolve in what we consider our Hawaiian culture, but also to be able to run with the best of the rest in Western academia. Should they choose to make their home in the U.S., outside of Hawaii, or abroad, anywhere else in the world, they need to go with the knowledge that their skills and that the tools that they've been given, not only to how to do, but how to think. They need to go with confidence that they can do that. It is a challenge, however, when we are subject to take tests that have been designed and created not by people here, not by people who have any semblance of what our curriculum is, and when we are mandated to take certain tests. Although it is an option if the parents all write in support of withdrawing from the test, then our school won't have to take the test.
Interesting.
For example, the state mandated academic testing.
Sounds like your job is doubly hard, though, because you have to develop your students so that they can measure up to two different sets of standards, yeah?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So, I think some people conceive of charter schools as, that's some alternative education. but as a matter of fact, it's doubly valuable, doubly difficult for you educators to deliver the goods, and the outcome has got to be really phenomenal, because you're preparing them for two different worlds, and doing it in a way where they can go and live and survive and thrive in whichever world they choose to plant their feet and their future in. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, if you think about it, let's take, for example, what is success and how is success defined?
Exactly. A loaded question again.
Yes.
Yeah.
For our students, if our students chose not to be a successful business person in a capitalist society,
Like a stockbroker, for example.
yes, how is it that they still need to understand concepts of capitalism, how to run a business, for example, and still maintain their livelihood? Well, in a world where capitalism has permeated everything that we do,
Yep.
we know that in Hawaii, now all the changes that our community has undergone means that we're no longer just going to be living for free off the land.
Yeah.
It means that people are going to work for a living. So how can we promote our students to be the taro farmers and the fishermen that they want to be, for those who do, and still manage and maintain their livelihoods? So how do they become people who can grow their product and market it?
Yeah, and being a taro farmer or a fisherman is just as legitimate as being a stockbroker. Yes?
For us, it's even more legitimate
Even
than being
more.
a stockbroker.
Yeah.
Because when the computers of the world cease to exist and when the power goes out,
Yeah.
we still need to eat.
Yeah.
The basic human necessities: food, clothing, and shelter.
Yeah.
Our students need to know how to do that. And in fact, many of, well, at least from what we see in the American viewpoint, many of the unfortunate situations, illnesses, for example, psychosocial, emotional problems, these things stem from what the world has become today.
The social ills.
Yes, the
Yeah.
social ills.
Yeah.
So by doing what we do, we hope to create a different kind of environment and community for our people to live and thrive in.
Yes.
That's the key word, thrive.
Yes.
Not just exist.
Yes. It really is all about thriving, isn't it? Hina, mahalo for being on the show today. It's been wonderful to have you again. You're doing a great job. Please keep it up. Please doing what you're doing, because we can tell you're making a wonderful and big impact.
Mahalo.
Mahalo to you. You've been watching Voices of Truth, one-on-one with Hawaii's Future, brought to you by the Kiwani Foundation. Remember to watch us on the web on voicesoftruth.tv.com, also our weekly video commentaries on freehawaiitv.com. I'm Ehuke Kahu Cardwell, and until next time, ahui ho!